you explained to us that religions are more or less tolerant depending on the time, that geography is a construction. But don't we have a major factor of cultural differentiation, which is language simply? Language, it can be a barrier to understanding, but many people say language is a way to describe and think the world. Doesn't that make for a difference in understanding and seeing and doing, fundamental differences explaining, accounting for major cultural tensions in the world? I agree with what you say for the main part. Indeed, you're right. Language is absolutely key in the way we view and understand the world and in the way we express it. That's why I think it's always better to write in the language in which you dream and think rather than writing in Pig Latin or bad English, globish, global English, globalish. But you said it all. You know, we talk a great deal of the biodiversity, diversity of species, but the diversity in language is key for the future of mankind. But, you know, even if you share the same language, you can hate each other. In the Middle Ages, the Christians fought in Latin. Croatians and the Serbs fought in Serbo-Croatian. I know the alphabet differs. You have Cyrillic and Latin alphabet, and the Arabs fight amongst themselves in Arabic. And the Chinese killed each other in communist China in Chinese. The Koreans hate each other in Korean, between the North and the South Korea. So language cannot explain concord or conflict alone. You have also alliance between peoples who don't speak the same language, and you have multilingualism. If we were caught in an identity essence, we would speak the same kind of French as the Gaulois, the Gaul inhabitants, except it was not the same language, but the same language as our King Francis I, which we can understand pretty much. The French spoken in Paris suburbs cannot be understood by some French people today. So language is something alive that reinvents itself every day. Also, it's that you have the generation gap. I'm older than you. I learned how to write with a quill, with a fountain pen, and now in a computer. And I don't speak the same language today, the same kind of French as I did when I was 20 years old. I don't write in the same fashion. I started writing in the 70s. I continue writing, and I don't write the same kind of French today as when I started my career. And then you have multilingualism. Most people on earth, I know the French are an exception, but even the French can be led to speaking several languages, more or less fluently, but we usually speak French and then some functional basic English for work mainly, but many of us may also have another language, mother tongue or other or father tongue. Many French people were born from parents not belonging to the same culture. You may very well speak a language that you've acquired by studying and that you practice professionally. It's not my case, but some people do that very well. We were speaking earlier of that colleague of the International Red Cross Committee in Kigali in 1994. His son was one of my students. He was in dysglossia. That is, he was mixing all the languages together. When he writes me an email in the same sentence, he uses English, French, Spanish, and sometimes German as well. And he doesn't do that because he wants to appear as a dandy or to be chic. No, he speaks Spanish to his mother, French to his father. Two languages in the family are spoken, and he speaks English in the learned institution where he works. So he's kind of mutant, but his linguistic consciousness differs greatly from mine. And, in sub-Saharan Africa, I smile when I hear Francophone Africa. First, statistically, French is not spoken everywhere, and the Francophone Africans speak at least 3 languages: French, then a vernacular language, the country language, and then, the national language and the local dialect. I talked with a young lady in Brazzaville in the 80s. She would speak French like you and me. She spoke English better than me. She learned it in school. She spoke Ingala and Larry as well, because she was from Congo. I asked her, what language do you dream in? She hesitated and she said in Lingala, in Linga. So this young woman in Brazzaville, that's what she told me.